This flip lesson is focusing on plant hormones. The specification reference for this topic is B1 2.3. Just like animals, plants need to respond to stimuli in order to survive. If you don't remember what stimuli actually means, these are different changes in the environment that either a plant or an animal could face. Pause this video here and try and list 3 different stimuli that a plant needs to survive. The first major factor will be light. Plants need light to make their own food via the process of photosynthesis. Plants can sense the light and grow towards it in order to maximise the amount of light that they actually receive. A second key feature would be water. Plants require water in order to survive. They can sense moisture in the soil so that their roots will grow towards it. Our third major stimulus that you need to know is gravity. Plants can sense gravity as well as respond to it. This makes sure that their roots as well as their shoots will grow in the correct direction. Auxin is the plant hormone that you need to know about when talking about a plant's response to different stimuli. Auxin controls the growth near the tips of the shoots and also the roots of a plant. It will control the growth of a plant in response to the 3 stimuli we looked at on the slide before. Auxin specifically controls 3 different stimuli: phototropism, gravitropism, that is also known as geotropism, and finally hydrotropism. I'd like you just to take a minute to try and work out which of our 3 stimuli from our first slide actually matches up to these 3 tropisms. So these are our 3 different stimuli. If a plant grows in response to light, this is known as a phototropism. If a plant grows in response to gravity, it is known as a gravitropism or a geotropism. And finally, if a plant grows in response to moisture or the presence of water, this is known as a hydrotropism. We can take this one step further as well and add the words positive as well as negative. If we have a positive phototropism, this means that the plant is growing towards a light source. A negative phototropism will mean that a plant is growing away from a light source. The same with hydrotropism and the same with geotropism or gravitropism. A positive hydrotropism will be a plant growing into a water source, and a negative hydrotropism will be a plant growing away from a water source or moisture source. Before we move on to look at exactly how our shoots and our roots grow in response to our 3 different stimuluses, we have to look at plant growth and how a plant actually grows. So our auxin, remember the auxin is our plant hormone, is produced in the tips of the roots and also the shoots. And our auxin will move backwards to stimulate the cell elongation process that occurs in the cells just behind the shoot. We can demonstrate this with a diagram. As you can see, the picture on the left shows a plant shoot. The dotted area around the top indicates the auxin and where the auxin is located. Remember, this is in the tip of our shoot. This auxin will accumulate in the tip and will cause cell elongation on the cells just behind the tip. So what we end up with is a taller shoot. The auxin will again accumulate at the tip of the root, but it is this section here that has grown via cell elongation. Let's now look at how a plant or a shoot will grow in response to a light. So remember, this is known as a phototropism, or even better, a positive phototropism, because the shoot is growing towards the stimulus. So as you can see, the light source is shining down on my plant shoot. This causes more auxin to accumulate on the side that is in the shade compared to the side that is in the light. So what this causes is the cells will grow or elongate faster on the shaded side. This then causes the shoot to bend towards the light. What we end up with is a shoot that has bent in the direction of the light, and this shoot area has elongated. So remember, the auxin moves backwards through the stem, causing our cells just behind the tip of our leaf to elongate, causing the shoot to bend in the direction of our light source. Our second main stimulus that you need to know about would be the response that a shoot will take when faced with gravity. So our shoot will actually grow away from the direction of gravity. This will therefore be known as a negative geotropism or gravitropism. So once again, we can demonstrate this with a diagram. So this is my shoot. As you can see, the tip of the shoot has my auxin accumulating on the lower side of the stem. Our gravity will be acting in a downwards motion, and my shoot is in this location here. So when a shoot is growing sideways, the gravity will produce an unequal distribution of my plant hormone auxin in this region of the tip of the shoot. This will therefore cause the lower side to grow faster, which will ultimately bend the shoot upwards. So what we are left with is a shoot that still has gravity acting in a downwards motion. However, we now have this auxin produced on our lower side, and once again this has stimulated the this has stimulated cell elongation in my shoot area, causing this to grow upwards. So the distribution of auxin in response to gravity means that the shoot should always grow in the correct direction, for example upwards, and this will occur even in the absence of light. So if this is done in a dark room, this will still be the response, as it's acting away from gravity. So the shoot is growing away. Our third response in a plant's growth will be the roots growing towards gravity. So this will be known as a positive geotropism or a positive gravitropism. So let's take, for example, a root that is growing sideways. So the force of gravity will be acting downwards. As always, we have our shoot and our tip. So the auxin is going to accumulate on the lower side of the shoot in this area here. More auxin will accumulate on this lower side. In a different way to the shoot, the extra auxin actually inhibits growth, meaning that the cells on the top of the root will elongate faster. So therefore, what this causes will be our root will begin to grow downwards. So we have this elongation of the cells in the tip, which causes the root to go downwards, and we have the force of gravity acting in this direction. Our final stimulus that we need to look at will be our roots growing towards our moisture. So we can demonstrate this through a diagram again. So we have our root, which is growing in a downwards motion, and we have our tip. So this region here will be our moist region, or where the water is located. So what will happen is the auxin will gather on the side that is most moist, on this side here. And remember that in the root, auxin inhibits growth, meaning that the cells will elongate on the non-moist side of the root, and therefore this causes the root to bend towards the moist area. So therefore we have a positive hydrotropism. Please remember to bring all of your notes made through this flip lesson to our next lesson, where we will continue to work on exam questions as well as evaluating the use of plant hormones.